Welcome SVPod late week, but it's week one, and we had a busy start to the week. We wanted to at least make sure we got some conversation out there on the record in advance of week one. Stanford Steve joins us from College Station. This is a podcast, so you're probably listening. But if you're listening and you're not watching, I want you to picture the most gorgeous powder blue you've ever seen. Big fella's got a Love You Blue Oiler hat on, and this is an important question. If the Houston Texans were to say, listen, we're just taking the logo and the colors back, and that's our new uniform, who's mad?
I don't know, but that would be my team.
You'd root for him?
Yep.
On uniform alone?
Sure.
Earl Campbell.
Love Houston.
Earl Campbell with the jersey just getting ripped in half, obliterating humans in his path.
Have your kids ever seen an Earl? Like, I would love for Charlie and Sam to be like, Daddy, what the jersey? It tears away?
It sure does, son.
How old is that?
It was made out of old paper towels. They wouldn't be able to make sense of a man like Earl Campbell. I'm either when the Titans wore them, people got mad because, well, they moved to Tennessee. I get it. I think I don't love the Titans jerseys. I'd love if they wore the Oilers, but it wouldn't make any sense. But it wouldn't make sense the way the LA Lakers doesn't make sense in LA either because they left for Minneapolis. Neither here nor there. I'm just saying I get the Texans. Ooh, here's our new uniforms. Cool. They
look like the Falcons.
Thank you.
Their navy blue is so dark. It's bad.
Oilers, wear the powder blue. Throw an oiled derrick on the side of your hat. Everybody knows what it is. You can still be the Texans. You can have an alternate. Everyone's got 9 logos. You can have a big bull, big cow.
You know what I bet the problem is?
What is it?
Oil money.
I don't know how that works. Someone's.
It's all over this place, I'll tell you that.
I've been to College Station. Rosillo and I did a radio show. They gave us a vest, and it had these tubes in it. It was an air-conditioned vest. They pump ice cold water over your nips, which is the only way. It was the only way you could do it. I looked at the weather just out of concern because Herbie is a sweater.
Oh, yeah.
I looked rainy. Looks like rain in the 80s for Saturday in College Station.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I don't like people we're talking around campus today about the idea of rain here. I'm like, sorry, I just can't picture rain here. And I said it's easily 30 degrees cooler than it was here. And it's hot. It's hot as hell here. Yeah, but that weekend we were there for Bama's return for Johnny was just insane. We did 7 hours that Saturday, and I never drove faster to an airport in Houston to shower. I'll never forget that. Well, a great weekend. Set up for a great weekend again here. The place is super, super excited with Elko. Got a chance to go over to practice, check it out. Facility, as you would, is just insane. They got some dudes on the D-line, I'll tell you that. This game is just about like Notre Dame coming in offensive line. Youngsters, I believe they don't have a senior on their O-line for the first time since 82, but A&M's doesn't have a lot of experience. I should say that. They don't have a lot of power on their offensive line, too, so I think we're set for I'm sure we'll get to it. We're set up for, I think, a defensive battle.
Well, look, it's week one in college football, and I think what happened last week, and this is our first chance to talk since you returned from Dublin. I'm sure people are interested in just your Cliff's Notes version of just international travel, Steve. How'd you enjoy it?
Okay. For the first time in my life, I really felt like you. And it's not from a popularity standpoint. Mm-hmm. It's from a hearing standpoint. Because I couldn't understand a fucking word anyone said whenever I talked to somebody. But they were always in a great mood. They couldn't be happier.
Why couldn't you just couldn't understand because they were speaking English, but just not our version of it?
Their D's or T's or their T's or D's. Their THs are D's. Like, it was just the darndest thing. And I couldn't, I made a mistake.
People say the darndest things.
I made a mistake. We go up first saloon. We popped in, asked the bartender what he had on draft, and he rattled off about 8 beers No chance.
No.
And I said, this is going to be a long 5 days of not understanding people.
You got butt heavy in a bottle? Just keep it simple. You tweeted out a thing with a Guinness, but everybody was they were in a happy frame of mind to welcome some American football.
Yeah, no doubt. It's the people that have traveled with us that have been to the NFL Europe games, they thought it was almost a better stadium atmosphere because you had so many fans travel over.
That was cool.
Like each school sold a ton of tickets, so it wasn't these Euros walking around in a Jimmy Garoppolo jersey. It was Florida State people and Georgia Tech people doing their chants.
What a great call! It's like, is that some guy from where's that? Is that some guy? Is
that Chad Henne smoking a dart?
Is that a Dan Pastorini jersey or some guy from Blackpool who's made his way over?
But the weather where it is geographically, Scott, on the on the water, that if you look at the pictures from when Seamus came on, we had an unbelievable show weather-wise. Sun was out, about 68 degrees, perfect. The last 5 minutes when those guys took pictures in the last segment, it looks like it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night.
When storms roll in, it gets serious. It tends to be for a relatively brief period, and then you just carry on.
Yeah, and the whole Celsius thing, I had to look that up. What equals 64 Fahrenheit? Supposedly 18 is, but that never got there in the hotel room. Not comfortable sleeping arrangements.
Where'd the shower head hit you? Mid chest?
No, I had to walk in. And I don't even know. You know what I was? It was like the door, no door on the shower.
Why would there be?
But you had to walk in because the glass is right there, and I felt like I was in an escalator, like that width of an escalator in a shower. I'm like, I can't even. We gotta get to places.
He's a bigger guy.
To wash.
Got to get the undercarriage sorted out here. Yeah.
How about an armpit?
Well, that too. I'll just say that.
So
takes you back to some showers in Scotland where you can't make heads or tails of what's going on in there. And if you didn't bring your own bar of soap, well, good luck. You get something the size of a scallop, you're just going to reek. That's what's going to happen. But you enjoyed it on balance.
I did. I mean, the best part, I'll tell you this, the best part, and this is where I was like, it's real. The way every time I say my last name or somebody sees my last name and tries to say it, right? They Cough. It's cough, right? Everybody,
right?
Just says Coughlin. And we get out. We got a driver that's picking us up. It's 5 a.m. We got 3 guys with Big Reds with us. Your boy Jeffrey's on the show staff now. He wants to have a conversation with you about not doing true or fake this year. He's heartbroken. So
that didn't happen. Real or fake true TV TV shows didn't happen this year, which is really a shame because that's given us some great content.
The driver sees my name on the sheet. He's like, "All right, you guys are together, Coughlin." I'm like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, man.
That's how you say it. And he said it right. So I'm not a native, but the guy told me exactly where my family was from. It was crazy, not creepy, crazy. Like it was super interesting, but we went and did a hurling shoot and we had meetings, so I didn't get out to the cliffs or see any of that. God bless you if you go there to golf. Good luck.
Yeah, a lot of folks
go. That doesn't look like a fun time.
You just need to have a proper game for it, and very few do. Well, parkland, good weather sort of stuff from the States, it's tough over there. It's a challenge. How the Florida State folks? How are they? They warm greetings.
There were 2 guys in front of me at check-in, bag check, and they had their golf clubs. And I'm like, "How many rounds did you get in?" He's like, "We had 6 scheduled, only got 3." And I'm like, "Were you supposed to play today?" He's like, "Yeah, we left after the game because we didn't expect that outcome." I'm like, "Huh."
Here's the good news.
That's tough. You went all that way.
Here's the good news, Florida State folks. And y'all were having a real good time beforehand. You were going to even all those scores for how you were wronged by our network and all that. Well, then it was kind of tough there after a field goal to end it. The good news is that your season isn't over, truly. And that's the I think the overarching sentiment of week one for a bunch of these big games. And we talked about it several weeks ago when it came to Miami at Florida. Narrative setters, yeah. Whoever loses is going to be pissed, yeah. But is your season over? No. And now Florida State's got to be a whole lot better, and I think they clearly all understand that. But at least it's not eliminating. This is not a game which will take you out of the conversation for the remainder of the year. And I think that on balance is good. There'll be people that say, "Oh, that's not that was the thing. The regular season was great." It's still going to be great. You just won't have to deal now with the semantics or the beauty contest, if you will, that a loss like that is disqualifying from being considered. And then you get pissed off down the road that someone decided you were in or you're out. You win the ACC, you're still going to go. And so that's the upside there, trying to make lemonade out of lemons, I suppose.
Yeah, and I go back to that idea right there. I go back to last year, 2 years ago. LSU could not have looked worse in an opening game in Brian Kelly's first game as LSU head coach in New Orleans, playing Florida State, couldn't field a punt, couldn't keep the ball in their hands, and lost on a botched extra point. And what do? They rally. They win 10 games. They beat Alabama. They win an SEC championship. They lost to Georgia. They played in the SEC. Played in the SEC championship. You're even more so now. The light is not as dim as it was in years past. But I go back there. You have plenty of season, plenty of capability. Norvell's a fantastic coach, and Agreed. They will be fine. They get Clemson. They get Miami. They get Notre Dame. Plenty of spots for big wins for the Noles.
There you go. And that's real. I mean, we could could take the opportunity to troll back, but that's not. Yeah. No one's interested in that. No one's interested.
We got games to talk about.
Exactly. And Florida State, you got BC. Win that one, and on you go. And Dublin will be a distant memory. It'll be a foggy memory for Pat McAfee. Got to visit with him. We were up on the campus for a little media powwow.
Yeah.
And Pat's going Friday to Morgantown to host a show. I saw they shut the city down because their native son's coming home, and I don't believe that Pat's going to set quite as aggressive a pace in Morgantown as he did in Dublin. He's a grown man. He can make his own decisions, but I think try to keep things relatively buttoned up. But we were chatting about that game, about just how cool is it to go home. First year that you and I had this show, and we start our 10th now, we were able to take the show home to do after a Maryland-Georgetown game. And what a blast to go home. Totally different deal, obviously.
I'll never forget that night for you. Never forget that night.
I mean, it's nor will I, man. It's an all-timer for a million different reasons. Totally different for Pat. He played. He was in the arena, wore the uniform, all-time leading scorer, and the whole bit. But what a great, fun thing to be able to go home, do that, then hop on the bird, go down to College Station, and the show rolls on. But that game right there was the one several weeks ago you said, this is a sneaky one. That number continues to inch back towards the dog, which doesn't surprise me. It's a massive opportunity for West Virginia. Massive. The question I have is, how different might Penn State look offensively, right? Last year they had the goods. They couldn't score when push came to shove against either Ohio State or Michigan. Well, now they bring in a new OC, got a whole lot of bells and whistles and tricks. What's your sense of that? What's your sense of what, and you're guessing to a degree, I suppose, but how different might Penn State look on offense?
I don't think it's going to be that different, Scott. Kotelnicki comes over from Kansas. Obviously, everyone was wild with Kansas the last couple of years. Jalen Daniels, and then Bean. I didn't see, did Bean make the Colts? I thought he had a great preseason.
I have no earthly idea. I'm not going to make it up.
He took it over for Kansas, and they'll run two quarterbacks on the field at the same time. A lot of out-of-pocket stuff, a lot of naked bootlegs, mobile quarterback stuff. Drew Allen's not that guy.
He's a pocket passer.
Exactly. He's not that guy. They bring in Fleming, who was a PA kid, I believe, and a big recruit.
Julian Fleming?
Pan out. Julian Fleming. Yeah,
he was a 5-star guy from Pennsylvania. When he went to Ohio State, it was a huge deal. I think a lot of people during that recruiting cycle just assumed he'd stay at home. Didn't, but he returns home. That was the biggest question for them last year. Do you have difference makers at wide receiver? Do you have guys that can get separation?
And Lampard Smith had a great year the year before. Now he's at Auburn. So I really wish when Fleming runs out, they could do the Carmelo, like I'm coming home song. That would be so good.
Yeah.
We are. And then coming home.
Yeah, but they're in West Virginia, so he's not home.
Yeah, there's going to be a different coming home song playing before that one. But no, I don't think it'll be that much of a different look. Their offensive line, even they lost Fashanu, will still be solid. I'm interested in the defense. The defense was number 1 in the country last year. You mentioned the losses where they just couldn't get off the field against Michigan, couldn't get off the field against Ohio State. And then the last time we saw them, they got ran by Ole Miss. 38 points, 540 yards offense. So Tom Allen, I think the world of as a defensive mind, and it's. I thought it was interesting where it's pretty obvious James Franklin has heard the whispers and this idea of changing coordinators, knowing that you finally don't have that brutal division that you know about in that Big Ten East.
it's a rough neighborhood,
every person says the first team that comes to mind is Penn State benefits the most from the playoff because they would have been in any years of the previous if we had this system.
For sure.
So, but now you got to go do it.
Yeah.
You know, like enough talking. You got to go do it. So I think there's a lot of pressure. I think they know that. They're walking into as hostile a place as there is, and that's a very capable team. West Virginia, in a couple ways, as Ole Miss does, they'll screw with your head with all that eye candy in that run game. Their quarterback can run. They got 2 running backs that could do it. Their offensive line is excellent. So I look at what's Penn State going to do to offset West Virginia's offense, and that means are they going to hold the ball and be good with the football, and will Penn State's defense travel? Those are the kickers for me. It's a lot of these games for me. The teams that are going to be relying on their defense, how much are you going to rely on them or be able to rely on them when your offense is behind at this point? So I totally believe West Virginia has the goods to hang around in that game, if not win.
I mean, that game and the Florida-Miami game are the ones that we talked about it a while ago. I've had them circled forever. I mean, we're going to have winners tonight on the show. You know what's on. They're on the card. It's just
both of them.
In the business that's known as a GPG, it's a general principle game. It's
both of them are, or Florida is.
I'm not going to announce any as that, but you know what they are.
Well, we got to start the GPG stats. We got to get that.
That's a fair point.
Start.
That is a fair point. Listen, we're just trying to get more in the left column than we are in the right column. All right.
Hey. We're in the new year, baby.
Let's start.
We're not looking back.
Modest,
we're going ahead.
I agree. I'm just saying, get all cute with the names and the thises and the that's and they're,
Understood.
A couple years ago, who was the preeminent Sun Belt tout in America? Me. I don't think I won a Sun Belt game a year ago. I literally don't. Before we start, Steve's asking me, what do we got for tonight on the show? Thursday means winners, trombone shorty, hurricane season, all of that. And I had flirted with a Friday night game. Taking a little look at Florida Atlantic. They're catching a couple touchdowns. Coach Herman's guys. I think Michigan State, you get Coach Smith from Oregon State. They're going to be different. I think they'll be better several months from now than they are early. I think
agreed.
And they'll assume the identity, but that takes time. And I don't know what they'll be yet. But why won't I give Florida State out tonight on the show, Steve?
Because it's a Friday game and you don't want to go into Saturday with an 0-1.
It's so embarrassing.
Not even thinking you could be 1-0. Not even thinking.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it to lose. It's Friday night. It's not even 11 o'clock Eastern, and you're just like, son of a bitch, I'm 0-1.
Yeah.
And then I know I'm going to have a couple of early action games going, and now I'm already gripping. I'm already stressing. I'm a stress monster. It's September the 1st, and I'm stressing because I could lose that Friday night game. And you know what that is, Steve? That's loser talk. That's a loser's mentality to think that you wouldn't win it. I'm telling you, they nearly made the list. But as I wrote the script for the show tonight, I asked myself, Scott, what do you know definitively about that team? Not one thing. Has that ever stopped me before? It has not. But it is a Friday night game. I need to alter that script so I can say that Steve.
Oh, boy.
No, I'm going to alter the script just to say, why didn't I give it out? Steve correctly advertising. Do not want to be 0-1 when I'm watching you guys in College Station on Saturday morning. Gosh, that's so embarrassing. But it's true. It's true.
It is.
And I've told the story before. Years ago, being in the war room, as they called it at ESPN, the legendary room where that's one of the iconic crews in TV history. The late great Chris Mortensen would be part of it. Boomer and TJ.
The most intimidating room I've ever walked in, ever in my life. That room.
It's hard because there
was there. Oh,
there were assigned seats. There was a caste system. You really shouldn't go in there unless you really felt good about yourself. It wasn't that you weren't welcome. It's just you had to have some shit to your game if you wanted to walk in there.
Don't
and sit
even
down.
think of touching the food.
Not until Boomer's
You'll
eating.
get your hand cut off.
Shout to Big Body Best. I want to eat my seconds first. Boomer better eat his Boom has to get his seconds first, and then you can eat. Anyway, I'm in that room, and Boom he's pissed at the Chargers or something in a 4:00 window. And I'm like, Boomer, what's the problem? He's like, yeah, Scotty, I swad the Chargers in the 2-minute drill. I swad the Chargers. And I'm looking around like, who gives a fuck? You're Chris Berman. Like, what difference does it make if you win or lose? You're Chris Berman. Then you start giving out picks on the show, and you're on game day, which has the eyeballs of the entire college football nation on it, and you're slapping picks on a fridge, which we have abandoned, thank God.
Yep.
You stress. You want to get stuff right because if you swat the Chargers, and if I go winners on FAU and they're it's 38-6, I'm like, what are we doing? So I didn't do it.
All right.
I didn't do it.
Didn't do it.
Florida, Miami of Florida. I don't know what new ground there is to cover here necessarily, other than a little bit of I didn't get as deep into that Florida schedule last time, other than just to gloss over it. Everyone knows.
Everyone else has.
Right. I mean, everyone knows that they have a month-long stretch late in the back of the year where you're just like, it's just.
Yeah.
It's like if you got hit in the head with a hammer, then you got shot in the knee with a BB gun, and then someone took a wrist rocket and hit you with a rock. I mean, it's just, there's not one fun spot there. And yet, if you win this one, it at least gives you Saturday night in the swamp.
No doubt.
To feel a little bit different about the world. And as you pointed out, from Miami's perspective, you could lose it and still win the ACC. Winning the SEC, winning the ACC, we're not talking about the same food group here. So from that perspective, it's far more important for Florida than it is for Miami. Doesn't mean it isn't important for Miami, because you've got Cam Ward, who transfers from Washington State, and I think the pressure on Cristobal to take the recruiting and all of the storylines that were so supportive about, oh, he's our guy, we got him back, now here we go. Well, then go. It's time to go. If they lose, it's not great. No one's going to say it is. It's just more crippling's not the right word. That's overstating it. It's just a far, far bigger bruise for Florida to lose this game, which is why I think somehow they figure out a way to win it.
I agree. I do think after watching Florida State, Miami's rival, last week, knowing what's happened in the portal on the offensive side, and Miami sort of being in the same boat, you have to be so buttoned up. You have to, this is one thing I was thinking about, Scott, too, is that it was a little bit, but that stadium last week, it was split crowd. It was 47,000, and both quarterbacks, dealing with the communication system. Now, like, the swamp is like, that's going to be as nuts as this place is Saturday night. Like, the comms thing, I think, is going to be a factor. And whether it's getting your personnel groupings right, whether it's getting the snap count right, whether it's getting the motions right, you have to be so buttoned up. And that's why I lean Florida, because I get all these moving parts. And again, these teams aren't going to be what they are a couple weeks from now, knowing the lack of practice that you have from back in the day. So I expect some stuff to happen. Like I said, shit's going to happen. And I think Florida, everyone's talking about, and I have done a big job because I picked Miami to go to the playoff also, and I love their personnel. Florida's not too shabby on the defensive line.
No, they got
those guys can eat.
They got some guys.
Last year, everybody gave up on them after the loss at Utah. They looked as bad as they could, false starts, the whole deal. They came back a couple weeks later and gave it to Tennessee, who had an injury on the offensive line. Miami, it does have a new center on that offensive line this year, so that's something to watch early in that game. But I just think the desperation, I thought Napier has done a great job, whether it's the Rashada case off the field, everyone just talking about the schedule. It's been pretty buttoned up. It sounds Montreal's going to be ready to go. He's their best running back. Mertz was awesome last year. Like, no one talks about that. That kid was so improved from what he looked like at Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And I give that a credit to Billy Napier. He's done wonders with quarterback. He's a former quarterback himself.
Right.
So I look at Florida as coming out with a more sense of urgency.
It's far more important.
I like them.
It's far more important to them. You mentioned how Miami is in the same boat in a sense as Florida State. They both have a change at quarterback. Uiagalelei and Ward are two totally different players. I know you're not. I know you're not saying that they're similar.
We're saying the pieces. That's all.
I understand. Ward is so dynamic. I just pulled up because I remember I had Washington State last year in winners, no big deal, against Oregon State in a wild game, and I was the way it went the way I remembered it. Ward threw for 400 and had 4 touchdowns in that game. When he's right, he's un-F-withable. Like, I didn't know how to say it because they're going to beat me, but you can't mess with him when he's right. And if we're both wrong here in this game, it's going to be because he was right.
Correct. And that's what I tried to say on the show the other night.
Right. I got that. And this is where I want to be careful because people eye roll when you say stuff like this because of the SEC and it's, propaganda, blah, blah, blah. I get that Ward's played in some big environments, and it isn't at night. But I mean, this is your first look at. Okay, this is a swamp. This is a desperate team. It's just means more. Okay, it's just different. You've been to all of them. It's just they just feel a little different to me, man.
And it's like they're forgotten almost.
Who, Florida?
And then you factor in the fan base, the team. That there's going to be a lot of pent up emotion in that building.
And you know what? The two we just talked about, Steve. You know why I love them, and the one that you guys are at. I love them because as cool as USC LSU is, it's not on campus.
No,
and
exactly. That's why we're here.
It's just like those. There are so many big time early season college hoop games, but if they're at the United Center or if they're at Madison Square Garden, no juice for me, none.
No.
And you go and you play in Atlanta, which is where Georgia and Clemson will play.
Yep.
Right. Cool game. It'll have juice because those two teams bring it. What did Big Fo say the other night? Grey Goose lemon juice. What did he say? What was the thing he said? Grey Goose something juice. I don't remember I don't remember how he put it. What we're saying is that there'll be atmosphere in Atlanta, but it's just so much better when you play these big time early season matchups on campus.
Grey Goose honey juice.
Grey Goose honey juice. That was it.
All right.
Yeah, down in Georgia, yes, indeed. Give me one of them Grey Goose honey juices. It'll be good. That's a big number Clemson's catching.
Yeah, and another team that seems like it's been forgotten about, and everybody, just talking about the portal and Dabo not dealing with it.
That's weird to me. I don't get why. I don't get it. I don't get it.
There's plenty of ways to go about that too.
And I mean, listen, what Locks talk about at Maryland Lion Tamers, if you want to go empowering and paying, everyone's doing it, but you better know what you're buying, right? You better be able to make sure you can maintain emotional continuity. Does that make sense? You want to make sure that you don't lose the room by gaining some pieces here. It's clearly hurt them. It's clearly hurt Clemson. And now you got this. I don't know. When's the last time they've been a 2-touchdown dog?
when they went to Florida State. I think it was like 6 years ago.
Okay, so
2015. I had Jameis year maybe.
Well, 2015, by the way, Steve, was almost 10 years ago. But like,
sorry,
neither here nor there. I get what you look. Yeah. Clemson totally changed the whole perception of who they are, what you can say about them during that window of time. So just to see that number next to their name is like, damn, that's. And then what does it speak to? To me, as much as it speaks to Clemson taking regressing a bit, not. It's not like they fell back to the middle of the pack, but they fell back from being like one of the absolute top dogs. It also speaks to just how absolutely loaded the cupboard is in Athens.
Yeah, and that's with a running back room that seems like it's going to be decimated for this game. And another thing that I feel like people have forgotten about, how good Carson Beck was last year. He was fantastic. I had no idea what to expect from him. He went to Auburn, dug his team out of a ditch. And got a win. He was accurate he was.
That's a great point because
that's everybody was just talking about his go-to was Bauer. Screw that. He had plenty of other throws to other guys through the course of the season. So to me, people are like, oh no, Georgia doesn't have any running backs. Georgia didn't really. They weren't a factor running the football the last. To me, they hurt you throwing the football.
Well, yeah,
and it was because of the guys who were doing it. So. I wonder about Clemson's secondary. It sounds like they're super thin, and that is not a good MO for playing Georgia in this game. So Clemson's got to get out early. If they go down, like you go down, it's going to be like the Oregon game a couple of years ago. Curtains, halftime, don't even come out. Get ready for McNeese or whoever you got.
They got debacle.
So Clemson needs a fast start more than anybody.
Other games that you want to hit on before we pivot, things that you've been as you're getting amped up for game day. You guys and it's one of these weeks. I think going through the process of what a week is like. I think people would really get a kick out of hearing just how.
For me?
Pardon me.
Me.
Yeah, no, look, the layers of the meetings and who's involved on these Zoom calls. And when Coach Saban starts talking you through the things that you think are interesting and how, I mean, I think that process would be interesting for the people that listen to us to hear about. But in terms of the games that you all have that you know are going to be part of the rundown that I haven't mentioned to date, is there something that you want to hit on before we move?
The first game I will download after we tape a podcast Saturday night is going to be Michigan-Fresno State because I have no idea what to expect, Scott. Defending national champions, you talk about change. Look at how much has changed with the two teams that played in the national title last year. Michigan's on one island. Washington, go look at that roster. You want to talk about a changeover and a job that Jed Fish has his hands full. Look at that roster and overturn.
You made the point to me about how much has Washington lost.
Oh, God, everything.
Yeah.
Everything. But Michigan, along the same lines, because all the talk before the draft, and it sucks that he got hurt, but I just kept going back and as the playoffs went on, watching Michigan throughout the year and going back and seeing how much was on McCarthy's plate. The guy was unreal on third downs. And people just talk about the Penn State game where they handed it off, but they still got the job done. But you go back to the Alabama game, the throws, the runs, the national championship game when it was teetering. He has a huge scramble. So that's the game I want to see. I don't know if Orji could throw the ball. I don't know if they're going to have to. But Fresno is always spunky. They ain't afraid of anybody.
Never have been.
And Michigan's going to be still have great play. They got two top guys on defense. Maybe the best corner in the country. Maybe the best D tackle. So I'm not saying it's going to be a close game. I just need to see what Michigan looks like on both sides of the ball, and also because we're going there next week. So that's the game I have circled. I really want to see Michigan State and what Aiden Childs brings with Jonathan Smith, Grayson McCall at NC State.
But they're not like their Tennessee game. We'll be talking about them next week.
But I just want to see putting so many new faces. What numbers are? I want to see names and numbers. It's musical chairs with a lot of guys. So I expect Oregon to score 80 on the boys from the Kibbe Dome, and USC LSU is really, really eye opening to me because of the issues both teams have had on the defensive side, and then you think about the players that have come and played on the defensive side for both those schools, and then the promise that the young guys have shown at quarterback with not a lot of substance. It's really, really interesting to me if LSU just leans on their offensive line, which should be phenomenal.
They haven't been good early under Kelly. I think it's a
I don't think they haven't won an opener since they won the title.
But I also think that there's real urgency for USC in this game because look at their early season schedule. They've got a bunch of opportunities to make huge statements and get big wins. Or if they're not up to the moment, they could have 3 or 4 losses early, and then it gets ugly.
Yeah,
like ugly. If the way the schedule shapes up for them, so that's a monster standalone game in the middle of a weekend. As the summer has roared past, you get from Memorial Day to Labor Day pretty quick, and it's like, man, we're in it. Speaking of Labor Day, which we're here. I always associate that time of year with. And college was so different for you because when you were going back, you're in the middle of 2-a-days. I just think of going back, the feeling you had going back to campus. There was nothing like it. It was a without taking drugs feeling of euphoria of everything good that could happen. It's this new influx of new people. And once you're past your freshman year, they're experiencing the anxiety, the excitement, the first time away from home for most of us. I mean, it just, if you're into the Greek system, all that comes with that. Nothing like that feeling. And I always associated a sporting event with this time of year, which was the U.S. Open in tennis. Always associated it because I always used to love John McEnroe back in the 80s when he was in the mix. We got to talk to him the other night as we took our show there. And first time either of us had ever been. Flushing, Queens, Arthur Ashe Tennis Center. It's incredible. It's just sitting in the middle of a neighborhood. You'd never know it. And I got to say, having never been and not knowing what to expect, we got it as good as you can get it. We start with John McEnroe, then we talk to Novak Djokovic, then we talk to Francis Tiafoe. He's from our area here in the DMV. Know him some from seeing him at Maryland football and basketball games. He's a huge Terp supporter. So couldn't dream of just a cooler guest list. And this isn't, again, is this recency bias like me talking about Paris? I'd just say I'm so glad I saw it because now I have perspective of something I have watched so much of, and now you know what it is. And let me tell you, if you're listening and you're like, what's that stadium like? It's 25,000 people. And it's not a basketball court, it's a tennis court. 2 dudes or 2 women standing opposite each other or on the other side of a net. And it's New York City personified. Bigger, more significant, stakes, spotlight, all of it. I'm so glad I saw it. You felt similarly, didn't you?
No doubt. I couldn't believe how big it was. Bigger than blows Madison Square Garden out by almost 10,000, which is nuts to me because you can't tell that on TV.
Not at all.
You can't do it. And I get it. There's so many cameras on the ground because of the angles of the ball. You want to see the serve, the return, charging the net, the whole thing. But to sit up in the little perch we were at and to see where the announcers are, I never knew they sat up on right above the first section of seats. Never in my million years. The only time I've ever seen it felt like is when they show that corner booth they have at Wimbledon. But to see how big it is and hear people talking while guys are serving. I've been to different tennis tournaments. It's supposed to be silent, no sound. And the players are cool with it.
Like Tiafoe said, Grey Goose, Honeydew said they talk the whole time. You're like, what are you going to do? Tell them to be quiet in New York City? Be like, hey, fuck you.
Yeah. So I was blown away with how, and then the courts outside where the water fountain set was, where you were, and then Joker comes out, and I'm just like, wow. And I'm actually thinking on the plane today, and I'm like, you're in Ireland on Saturday, and you're on a set Monday in Ireland with Nick Saban, the greatest college football coach of all time, and the greatest tennis player of all time, 2 days later in New York City. I was blown away at what I've been able to do. And just to hear those 2 guys talk, and Joker, he's not never in a million years, I'm thinking, when he was young, did he even know what New York City was? And now he brought us in like, hey, welcome in. Welcome to your first U.S. Open. Like, this is my shit right here. Welcome in. Isn't it awesome? And he loves it. They love it. The aura of it, I just think was so awesome. The courts everywhere. The day after was that longest match ever. It's on one of those side courts, but being there, now I can see, I'm in Arthur Ashe. I could walk right over here and watch the fifth set of that men's match. Like, it's really cool. And being so many places, being so lucky to be so many places, Scott, they did it right. You go to some places and you're like, oh, I thought the gym would be bigger, or I thought the turf would be nice. Like, that place is awesome for it. Like, think about that, 2 weeks straight. And you could go anywhere around the concourse and different courts. And we didn't even walk in Louis Armstrong. That thing looks awesome, too.
And tennis is not my thing. Never played it. We'd play it just for fitness stuff. I mean, I enjoy trying to play it. I wasn't any good at it. But it's not anything that I am proficient at. And
I'd love to see you return serves.
I had a big kick serve. Hit it with the top spin. Get the big Ichabod Crane frame.
I'm not talking about serving. I'm talking about return.
No thanks. I just try to win my service games and steal a point here or there. So what I'm saying is I got zero frame of reference here, and it's nothing that I've attended. That's never been anything I covered. But I always wanted to see that. In the same way, I'd love to see Wimbledon, because everyone says Wimbledon is much like Augusta National. It's just exactly right.
Whoa.
Pristine.
Whoa.
Well, they say that they're sort of like sister clubs or brother, however you want to frame it. Like they each learn from the other. I mean, I think you can. Augusta National's got it. If they ran the world would be on time. And I think that Wimbledon is much like that. So I'd love to see it, but New York is just New York. When you take off out of LaGuardia and they circle back around, you're looking down on Citi Field and the tennis center, and there's the city in the backdrop, and it's New York. It's just absolutely massive, and there it sits there on its own in Queens. But the Djokovic conversation, this because you've known me forever. Mm-hmm. He was like a white whale interview, a guy I had always wanted to talk to, and I'm so glad it happened the way it did, because the conversation that you have when you're with someone is different than a conversation that you have when someone is on a screen somewhere, no matter how comfortable someone might be. And he was very gracious about being a big fan. It was tempting to do the Russillo thing and say, what segments do you like? But just take the compliment. He's being gracious. And I think a lot of people, you tweeted out the interview. I would have, but got hacked. Good time there. No, I wasn't trying to sell Bitcoins with my dead dog. Thanks to the hackers. Come on, man. I would have tweeted it out as well. But people were very sort of, I think, enjoyed. I got a lot of nice notes from people, just that they thought he was really just different than they'd seen him in talking about what the Olympic victory meant. And it made sense to me, because this is the same court where he had to retire in the French Open with a knee injury. It's the same guy who, quoting Djokovic, kicked my ass at Wimbledon. And this is the last real window you've got, because 4 years from now in this event, you're going to be 41. Sure, but probably not. And he said, I believe in destiny. And he felt this was just destined to be. And to hear a guy who's won more slams than anyone talk about what it meant, and to be sitting there with him and see the way, the emotion in it, and then to hear him talk about what it meant to have the Serbian team there. Yeah. And how much he was pulling for his guys in the semifinal game against the U.S. I don't know. It was just that wrapped up the night in such a. You said it well, right? You're with Saban and Ireland. You're with Djokovic in New York, and you're looking around today, going, how did this happen? Right?
No idea.
And that's great. It's great to hang on to that. That appreciation. And that's all I can say on it, is that just I waited a long time to talk to him, and I certainly enjoyed it. And he and Tiafoe both won their next matches. Their opponents had to retire in their next matches, which I'm just glad we didn't have the Van Pelt effect where you come on and then they were working on his abdomen. I'm like, well, here we go. The guy's he's got a hernia. We gave the dude a hernia.
A jerk kept him for over 8 minutes on the set after his match.
He was in no hurry to go. I understand his people were getting a little antsy, but I don't think Joker was in a hurry to go, which we appreciated his time. It was a blast to be in New York City. Steve saw Pulp Fiction. I gave my movie reviews recently. Movies without sound. Meg 2, the Godzilla flick. Steve said he hadn't seen Pulp Fiction, and I was troubled by that.
Yeah.
I consider it. Have you seen Inglourious Bastards?
Yes.
Did you like that film?
I did. It was pieced together way better.
Buongiorno. Pitt speaking Italian, spectacular. All right, but Pulp Fiction is, I would say, the word iconic gets used way too casually. Iconic means iconic, not good. Pulp Fiction, I believe to be an iconic film. Go ahead. What did you think of? What did you make of Pulp Fiction?
The most random thing I've ever watched. Like laughter of heads being blown off, which happens a lot in those movies.
I shot Marvin in the face.
But yeah, I just so random and bizarre to me. The acting of Samuel L. I don't know his resume that well. I know he's acted forever. He's been in classic films. That's the best I've ever seen him. He was unbelievable.
Should have won for that. He didn't.
Who did?
I think I'm going to look it up. I think it was Martin Landau won for some. I got to find that out. I'm not Adnan Verk. We needed Verk on the phone. He's the cinema expert.
I'm sure he'll text us as soon as he's done listening to this. But no, random, bizarre, violent. But the roles were just tremendous. When you go back and look at who's in there, how about the Wolf? The Wolf was
Harvey
incredible.
Keitel. Yeah.
Oh my God, Uma Thurman.
Well, can I ask you a question? I do have one question about the Wolf. Didn't he just show up and say, clean up the car?
Yeah, he just he gets shit done, but he just tells you to do everything.
Yeah, but I mean, how did he fix it other than to be like, you have a dead body in a car? I understand. Yeah, pretty please. Clean up. Okay. They keep
my cigarette.
Yeah, but it wasn't like he waved a magic wand. I just seemed like he took two dudes that just capped a guy in the back of the car.
It was just Tarantino to get himself in the movie.
That's
too.
What it was. Yeah. That's what it was. I was right. Landau beat
what movie?
Ed Wood.
I haven't seen it.
Samuel L. should have won for that because the thing about a great role is that when that dude is on the screen, you cannot take your eyes.
Is that 94?
5.
Shit.
You can't take your eyes off the guy.
No.
And that scene where he's in the diner and he goes through the speech and he explains, I never gave much thought to it. I just thought it was some cold-blooded shit to say. And then he's like, you are the weak and I am the tyranny of evil men. But I'm trying, Ringo. I'm trying real hard to be the shepherd.
Was Ringo even his name?
No, he called him Ringo because he looked like one of the Beatles and he had an accent.
That's what I gathered also. I just wanted to double check.
To be the shepherd. Oof. Whew. Man, that's good. But then it's like, wait, didn't he just get... It's confused. Sure, it's put together.
Yeah.
It's artistic license.
I'm not good at those.
I would agree.
I need a notepad.
Well...
And then I got curious about Tarantino, and I went and watched True Romance.
And?
I enjoyed that better.
Different film?
Yeah.
Different film?
But there was a plot that I could follow. Pulp Fiction's just,
I'm not arguing with what you're saying because, again, it's the way it's laid out is intentional. I think it's...
You like Inglourious Bastards the best? Well, Wolf of Wall Street's Tarantino, right? Or no, that's Scorsese?
No, that's Scorsese.
That's a 1 seed.
Well, it is a 1 seed. The acting in Inglourious Bastards I just find astounding.
Mm.
And the shifting back and forth of languages and
Yeah.
I think I like Pulp Fiction better, but
Okay.
Inglourious Bastards is right there for me.
It's good. I could watch Inglourious Bastards way more.
Than Pulp Fiction?
Yeah.
Okay. Buongiorno.
I also attempted on the way home to watch Chariots of Fire, and I couldn't do it. The accents, like after being there for a week, I just can't. I can't understand people.
I always used to tell David Faraday that are you asking me? Are you telling me? Because even when you're telling me, it sounds like you're asking me. Are you asking me? Are you telling me? It's always a question, even if it's not a question.
True. So true.
But I'm glad you saw a little bit of the world. I'm glad that game day's back. Selfishly, I know it's an absolute bear for you and all the folks that are out there traveling and humping, and especially with you double dipping between that and Monday Night Football, which gets going soon. But selfishly, it's fun to wake up on Saturday morning, pop on the tube, and watch you guys do your thing. Please tell me that you're prepared and motivated to select victorious picks for the people on Saturday morning with your new technology that you have.
Nothing's going to bother me. Nothing is going to bother me. We're coming out with a focus.
That's it.
And an attitude.
Okay.
And we're confident.
That's
how we're going about things.
Bang. Right there.
And if you don't like it and they lose, I don't give a fuck.
I swat the Chargers, Jesus. And then you come back. We got our last fantasy draft, and we're off and running. NFL.
Mocking, you done? Is this it for you?
I got 2 more. I got one on Monday and one on Tuesday.
How many leagues? 5?
I'm in a few leagues. Just picked up. Had some waiver pickups. You got to keep your eye on those backfield questions. Who's the handcuff, Steve? Got to be careful about that. Had some injuries.
Watson.
The RB2 in San Francisco and Green Bay. A little changing there. McCaffrey gets nicked up. Who you got to have? Got to have Mason.
How many people in our league listen to this podcast?
All of them, because they just want to see if they get mentioned.
No, they don't. No,
there's only a few in the league. I'd say
Champ doesn't.
No, Champ can't be bothered. He's too busy mocking and sending out his manifesto.
Chicago guy doesn't.
It's fine.
He's probably got a
he's doing shrugs and upright rows. A lot of guys are listening. It's fine. It's fine if they know some of the back end picks. I'm not concerned about it.
Have you been offered a trade for your pick?
No, I was a different league that I traded up cash considerations. I moved up to try to get Tyreek Hill, and the guy in front of me took Tyreek. So I got CD. He got his money, and we feel all right. We're all right. You got anything else on the way out?
Not really. We are. I gotta get ready to go talk to you again.
Okay, that's right. So we got SportsCenter. This is Thursday afternoon. We're talking. We'll have winners on tonight. Saturday night, week 1. Mostly finished. Stanford Steve and I will be reconvening and putting together a little week Saturday night reaction. That's what we're going to be doing. So get prepared for your Sunday mornings in advance of the NFL. Make a little time. You know the drill. I mean, we yammer on for about an hour, and that's the plan. You ready?
I'm ready. I cannot wait for this weekend.
Me either.
We're here. We got games tonight. Shit. What are we talking about?
Thursday.
You got a monster show tonight.
We follow the Colorado game against the Bison. Yeah. Just remember, America and the world, you're not obligated to have action on every game. Not obligated. I'm remember that when you're putting together throw together a 4-teamer and if-then reverses, right? And then you got to go meet a guy behind a church.
Yeah.
Not great.
Good times.
All right. Stanford Steve, everybody, game day. Bright and early Saturday morning from College Station. We'll see you, SportsCenter. You know the drill. We'll see you Saturday night / Sunday morning. Happy first week of college football.
Yay.